Y'all, I'm gonna go crazy with all this dot making. I get it now.
Welcome to my channel.
So you probably saw in my last video how my clay board that I was using for this original painting was disintegrating as I was painting on it. Ugh, it was frightening. You can already see this little area where it even has an indentation now from where I went back in and started to kind of just scrub, which I should be able to do fine, but it's like the whole, the clay started to come up, and that's so not cool. So here we are, and I gotta start over. I had to start completely over and redo the recipe from scratch, and it just took time because I had to cure the board and all that jazz. Then I was able to start again on this painting, and it looks fantastic. However, it was a beast because there were so many dots. I basically felt like Kusama, that Japanese artist who does all the dots, and I was like, oh my god, I'm going crazy. So that was fun. Because I already did this painting and this next one that I did looks basically just like this, I had a really great rubric to go off of, and it took me way less time. That's kind of the benefit of doing a collection, is that as you're going along, you're learning your process and you're able to repeat steps. This is how I did it, and I don't have to troubleshoot all of that anymore. And so then you just blow right through it. I'm super excited to show you this painting. I'm gonna go through the process with you on how I did it. It's actually quite simple, but there are a few layering techniques, especially with the clay board and combining my watercolor with a 3D watercolor ground by Core. This is a really cool product that I've started using and experimenting with, and I can't wait to dive further into that product. So I will show you how I'm using it for this painting. I will admit I was holding my breath about this first layer because my last attempt at this painting failed, but everything proved to be holding up. So my background of blue is a dreamy combo of Joseph Z Cool Gray plus Haze Blue. The hands are my go-to colors: Naples Yellow, Ultramarine Blue, Caput Mortuum Violet, and Rose Doré. It took a few layers drying in between, but we eventually got there. Next, as you know, the dots. This part where I have just a few forming the shape floating above the hands is so lovely. It's inspiring another painting, but you know, TBD. To protect the fingers from my dots, I applied some delicate tape. I will say I used too many layers of tape because it allowed some color to leak underneath. So next time I'll try to use bigger pieces. My technique is using the back of a brush, dipping it into my watercolor, then tapping it onto the clay board. It leaves a bubble of color behind that require drying time between layers. I had to do this in multiple stages so I didn't bleed the colors together. So yeah, it took a few days to do it all, and my hand and shoulder cramped by the end of it. This next part made me nervous. I'm wiping through what I already painted with a watery brush to get the effect I want. This technique is unique to clayboard, which is why I love it so much. After wiping through, I add my colors and my dots. After those colors and dots are added, I go through with a wet brush and streak the colors to make it look like the sand, or whatever these dots are in motion. Yep, you guessed it, more dots. But this time, I'm combining my watercolor from the tube to Core's 3D watercolor ground. This creates a fast drying paste that sticks to the board and won't dissolve. The possibilities of textures I could do with this are endless. It basically has the texture of icing, so molding it would need some practice. The reason I'm using a palette knife is because the ground has the potential to ruin my brush, especially as it dries. If you find yourself using ground, either use a palette knife or dedicate a brush that's just for ground. Wash your tools in their own water immediately after using. Ground is basically like paper glue and doesn't come off of surfaces easily. I wanted to keep the background the same as the other painting I'm mirroring this one off of, so light clouds and faint streaks of color will fill the sky. I tried 2 different techniques to make the streaks, tape and the edge of my ruler. I preferred using the edge of my ruler because it was simpler to use and actually did a better job with creating a smooth line. I'm so pleased with how this turned out. I have a few things I'm gonna tweak on it, but it is basically done. And the texture is just so delicious. I love it. And the contrast, this is really honestly a piece that you need to see in person. So sorry that you're seeing it digitally. I'll try to show you a little texture here. And this one is going in the 2026 art collection that I have, and there will be more details on what that collection is about in my further videos. This collection is coming to a close, and so I'll be moving on to some other things and experimenting, and I have some big news to share with you, but that will come. But also, I am launching a Substack. It's going to be called The Underpainting. It is still under the handle of Awalla Studio. It will be more in depth with the writing of just kind of my inspirations and also the details of the why behind my collection and more about the stories. So thank you so much for following along with my 2026 art collection. I have another painting in mind that I'm going to make. However, I have a few shows that are coming up and a few proposals that are pending. So I'm going to be leaving some room to prep for those shows as well. I will let you know what is on the radar. All right, thanks so much and see you next time.
Thank you for watching.